morning. Welcome back to the Holy Stuff of Life. We've been quiet for 2 weeks so that Joong Kim, who is the video editor of this series, could complete a very important work called a PhD, which he has done, which we celebrate. And because of his work, this title and this object lesson today is entitled By Hook or by Crook. Now that is an expression in English which means by any means necessary. Whatever it takes, you get it done. And it's a very old expression in English. It dates back to before 1380 when it shows up for the first time in a text published by John Wycliffe. By hook or by crook. So this expression from Middle English, that means by any means necessary, has a faintly suspicious sound, and its origin is obscure. You can find several explanations for where it came from. The one that is most, I think, attractive to us today is the one that says these by hook or by crook expressions came from the reality in England where the poor whose land had been, if you want to use a polite word, confiscated by the landed gentry, were forbidden to collect firewood in forests or in areas that they had historically been able to live on and in relationship to. And when the landed gentry basically claimed that all that was theirs, you could not hunt, you could not gather wood, a certain loophole emerged, and that was this, that you could cut branches from trees on land that now belonged to the nobility, only if you could reach it and cut it down. So you would reach for a branch, and if you could reach it, you could cut it. Well, that use of firewood, which was desperately needed for warmth and food and shelter, meant that there was a certain ingenuity that developed, because those who took care of sheep and took care of the land suddenly realized that if you had a stick that had a hook or was considered part of an older understanding of the shepherd's crook, you could reach a little higher. You could, in fact, reach and pull down a branch that was beyond your hand, and that way you might be able to gather enough wood to make a fire to keep your family warm. So, by hook or by crook depends on which side of the fence you were on as to whether or not that was a good phrase or one that was in fact seen as criminal behavior. So by hook or by crook, by any means necessary. And it potentially was connected to this kind of object. Now this is not a shepherd's crook. I'll show you one in a moment. This is, in fact, a walking stick with a perfectly wonderful hook of a handle. And it was made by a West Virginian who is now in his late 90s, Roy Mace. And he, in his lifetime, did a variety of things, from being the mail carrier to being a legislator to being a great and famous fisherman in Wirt County. But the other thing he would do on his explorations into wild, wonderful West Virginia was to find those young saplings that had been marked, shaped, literally twisted by vines, by branches that helped make a young sapling something other than straight up and down. And he would cut these, and then he would sand them, but leave the beautiful shaping of the wood that resisted those vines until it became a work of art and also a perfectly wonderful walking stick. This would help you get where you needed to go, then the hook was part of its attraction. So here is one example of a hook and a crook. Any means necessary. This young sapling basically gets transformed into something that will help someone as they're aging to stay on the way, on the path, to keep moving in the direction that they want to grow. This is another example of by any means necessary, by hook or by crook. And it's an antique one whose maker I only know by the letters JB. And it was in a yard sale. And whoever JB was, he was not content to simply let nature do the shaping. He decorated the handle, the hook, so that it demonstrated the art of aging. This hook crook, this any means necessary, was not only a way to cope with getting older, it was also an expression of an art. And an occasion when I looked at this JB, I would add the letter O. This potentially is someone who understood the stresses of life and by any means necessary overcame them to make art what was aging. We come now to the last example of what truly belongs to both the period and perhaps the description. This is a shepherd's hook. It's from Scotland, and it contains both the straight up and down of that Scottish Presbyterian uprightness, but then this clever and insightful use of a deer's antler. This is what, in fact, a shepherd would use when they would go out to take care of their lambs. And if one got stuck, there was a wonderful way that you could, in fact, extend over the edge of a chasm and retrieve a lamb from the bottom or pull them out of thickets. And because this shepherd knew by any means necessary, by hook or by crook, sometimes even shepherds need rescuing. This is shaped in such a way that the shepherd might need help, could summon help. Listen. So, by any means necessary, by hook or by crook, a shepherd could both rescue a lamb and, when they needed rescuing, call for help, by hook or by crook. There's an ancient psalm that in fact expresses this by hook or by crook theology of God. And it begins, "The Lord is my shepherd." And in this psalm, the rod and the staff that comfort, that rescue, are clearly that evidence that when God is dealing with this human creation, it's by hook or by crook, any means necessary to communicate to us how loved we are.